He stood under the lights and said my name like a footnote. Then he smiled and said, "I built this myself." That was the moment I understood I didn't just lose credit. I lost my place in his life. Everyone applauded. I didn't. I was 34, a product manager living in Austin, and I'd known him for 9 years. We met when neither of us had anything impressive to offer, just long nights, cheap coffee, and an idea that felt bigger than us. Back then, success was something we whispered about, like a fragile dream we didn't want to scare away. I believed in him before believing in myself. I edited his pitches. I ran numbers. I skipped weekends. I told him when his ideas were bad and stayed quiet when they were brilliant so he could shine. Somewhere along the way, the distance crept in quietly. He stopped asking my opinion. He started saying my company instead of ours. When people praised him, he didn't look at me anymore. He looked past me. I told myself it was stress. Growth. Temporary. The night everything cracked open wasn't a fight. It was a celebration. It was a tech conference, a mid-sized stage, warm lights, a room full of people who wanted to be him. He was invited to talk about his journey. I sat in the third row, hands folded, ready to be invisible the way I'd learned to be. He started from the beginning, how he had struggled, how he had sacrificed, how he had built everything from nothing. From nothing. When he reached the part where my name should have been, he paused, smiled, and said, "There were people along the way. But in the end, it came down to my vision." The room laughed softly. I felt something sink inside my chest. Not anger. Something colder. After the talk, people congratulated him. They shook his hand. They asked for advice. One woman looked at me and said, "You must be proud of him." I nodded because it was easier than explaining that pride and erasure can exist in the same body. Later that night, I confronted him in the hotel hallway. Not loudly. Not dramatically. "You rewrote the story," I said. He didn't look surprised. He looked tired. I didn't think it mattered. It mattered to me. He exhaled like I'd inconvenienced him. "You were convenient. That's not the same as essential." That word landed harder than anything else. Convenient. I asked him if he ever loved me, or if I was just part of the process. He leaned against the wall, checked his phone, and said, "Your feelings don't matter in this conversation. This is bigger than us." That was the moment I realized I'd been shrinking myself to fit into someone else's narrative. I wasn't his partner. I was a resource. I didn't cry in front of him. I waited until I was alone in the bathroom, sitting on the cold tile, shaking like something had finally broken free. I thought about all the times I'd defended him. All the nights I stayed when leaving would have been easier. I felt stupid. Then I felt empty. For weeks after, I kept showing up. Habit is powerful. He kept taking credit. People kept assuming I was support. I started losing my sense of who I was outside of him. My work felt hollow. My voice felt optional. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. One morning, I was staring at my reflection, rehearsing how to ask him, again, to acknowledge my role. And something inside me just stopped. I saw how tired my eyes were. How small my life had become. I realized I was begging someone to see what I should have protected myself from losing. So I didn't ask. I erased myself. I withdrew my name from projects. I transferred my responsibilities. I stopped correcting people when they assumed I wasn't important. I gave notice, not with anger, but with clarity. When he asked why, I said, "I don't exist here anymore." He laughed like it was a phase. "You'll regret this." Maybe. But I already regretted staying. Leaving didn't fix everything overnight. I didn't glow up. I didn't win some public victory. I felt lonely. Untethered. I questioned myself constantly. But slowly, something returned, my voice. My sense of authorship over my own life. Months later, I heard his company was struggling. People finally noticed the cracks. Someone asked me if I felt vindicated. I didn't. I felt free. The truth is, silence isn't weakness when it's chosen. Walking away isn't losing when staying costs you your identity. I didn't need to expose him. Time does that on its own. I just needed to stop offering myself to a story where I was invisible. If you're listening to this and you're shrinking yourself to keep someone else comfortable, stop. If you're asking for credit instead of claiming your worth, pause. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight for a place at the table. It's to build a new one.